up, Define Nation, and welcome to another episode of Define Your Health with Danielle Girdano, strength through knowledge. And you guys know that knowledge is one of the things I'm most passionate about, so that you are equipped with tools and resources to live a healthy, well-rounded, long, productive life. And today's topic matter is something I'm absolutely passionate about. I think there's a lot of stigmatism around the topic that we are going to cover today. And I also think it's the area of health that people really don't pay much attention to. It's one of the areas of health that get dismissed and get kind of shrugged off. But we are not going to do that. We are going to attack that head on with our wonderful guest we have on the show today, Renee Baker, who is a licensed professional counselor, and she is one of the foremost experts really in the Dallas-Fort Worth area that deals with gender identity issues, gender therapists. Her specialty includes youth and families and LGBT community issues. Renee, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Danielle. I'm happy to be on the show today.
And we're going to do a little reconnaissance work on mental health today.
Little reconnaissance, all right.
Part of Renee's background was she worked on reconnaissance as an electrical engineer.
I was.
Let's really just dig right in. Mental health is one of the areas that I truly believe people don't pay attention to. I think people, they shrug it off. Why do I really need to go see a therapist? Well, this issue really isn't so big. Well, I can handle this. And then stress and emotions all build up. And take us into mental health as you see it. Why is it so important? And really, what are the health benefits? And then also the, if you don't take care of it, the way that your health can decline.
Well, I think in the past, we didn't really understand that our mental health was really a something. We just felt certain ways. We didn't understand that our thinking was related to how we feel. Nowadays, we kind of take it for granted that the ways I think are going to affect my emotions, kind of like if I want to be happy, think happy thoughts, right?
Okay.
That's kind of taken for granted today to some extent, but in the past, we didn't know the link between our thinking and our feeling. Our beliefs very much shape how we feel about our lives, about ourselves, about our relationships. And counseling is really about developing a relationship with yourself, as well as developing relationships with other people in a very healthy and mindful, it's a key word, a mindful way.
Well, and I think it's so interesting, changing the classification of it. As you said, it's a what, I believe is what you said, correct?
Yeah, I think it's a something. We need
something.
It's a something. And mental health is, when I was younger, I used to wake up and wonder, well, what kind of mood will I be in today? As if it was an outside force that was forcing me to feel a certain way. And I had no idea that how I felt was going to be within my own control. And that's what really developing mindfulness is about oneself and about the way one thinks and feels and the things that we believe. Our behaviors and our thoughts are often can be changed by paying attention to them, and that's a very important teaching tool in counseling, is helping clients become more aware of what they're thinking and what their beliefs are. And we can actually change those things.
Well, and what have you really, has it been primarily the last 50 years at this kind of a transition where, we've went from, hey, this just is what it is, to having that something type of mentality? Has it been the last 30 years, 20 years, 10 years? What has really kind of been the evolution in American society, that is? Because I'm sure different societies are different.
Well, that's very true. In many ways, we could go back to, say, the roots of Zen Buddhism and so on, 2,000 years ago. To a large extent, that was where mindfulness originated or was very much popularized. But in contemporary times, 50 years ago, with Sigmund Freud, who's the father of psychology, really was the famous person to kind of put the whole structure in place of psychology. We didn't have psychology in a formal sense prior to him.
Well, and it amazes me how there still are stigmatisms around having good mental health, or folks that are challenged and just maybe learning to deal with the different energies and such within themselves. And we are going to get into that definition right after this quick commercial break. Remember that this segment is brought to you by eWater. Water is absolutely essential definition, so make sure each drop counts and give our friends at eWater a call today. 1-800-964-4303 or visit them online at ewater.com. That's EWATER.com.
eWater.com offers specific services to help you get the best water you can take, from nutritional information to in-home testing of your tap water. The water you drink should be at its best. When it's at its best, you're at your best. So check in with eWater.com. eWater.com for water purification and other essentials. Give them a call, find out what you're missing. 1-800-964-4303 or visit them at eWater.com. Again, that's 1-800-964-4303 or at eWater.com.
Is your computer running slow? Do you have computer errors or a virus? Are you about to throw your computer out the window? Don't! Call Whitson Computer Repair for your business or home. Our courteous and professional techs can help you sort out your computer problems, saving you time and money. So if you're at your wit's end, call Whitson Computer Repair. That's www.whitsoncomputerrepair.com or 972-743-2649. Again, that's www.whitsoncomputerrepair.com or 972-743-2649.
We're back to Define Nation with our special guest, Renee Baker, a licensed professional counselor in the DFW Metroplex. And Renee, what do you see as really the positive benefits of taking care of and understanding good mental health and being able to identify different feelings that the human body produces, the emotional?
When we talk about mental health, I like to use the word peacefulness. It's stillness, and how much we can quiet our own mind.
Okay.
So good mental health is being able to grab a hold of your thoughts and change the focus, to stop them, to slow them down, to put my focus maybe on my body so I can rest my body. And that's not an easy thing to do. It takes a lot of practice. It's almost like building a muscle.
Okay.
Right?
All right. See, you're talking my language.
Now we're talking your language. So there's so many analogies, I think, between the body and the mind. Really, when we talk about ego, you know, the ego is the thinking mind. We're really, in the past, we used the term ego body. We dropped the body, but we need to remember that our ego and our body are all tied together, because our mind is really the brain in action. Okay. And so in a lot of ways, the thinking is a result of exercising muscles.
I totally agree with you on that. There you go.
So we know that our body needs rest, right? We go out and we work out. We need to go home and take a rest. But we don't rest our mind nearly as much because we're so busy with our jobs. I would use the analogy that our mind is also like a pond. And if our pond is very still, we're very quiet. Our mind is still, our pond is still. And if something happens in life, for example, I don't know, somebody yells at you, all of a sudden you're like, ah, and then my pond is no longer still. Somebody threw a rock in my pond. And so the pond has got to settle down, and they can keep throwing rocks in it, and my mind will be busy, and I have to process it. Well, later on in the day, if I'm still thinking about what happened earlier in the day, I'm throwing rocks in my own pond. So I need to learn how to stop throwing rocks back in my own pond so I can still my own mind. And that's a key. We can that's a practice we can get to through meditation.
Because you talked about meditation, what is your opinion on doing hypnosis at night or listening? I mean, there's so many YouTube channels that you can go to for deep relaxation or reducing anxiety or depression. What is your opinion on how the subconscious picks it up? Is that a valuable thing for members of Define Nation to try out if they are having a hard time falling asleep?
Sure, I think so. I'm not a hypnotist. I've never really practiced it myself. I do have colleagues that find it very useful with their clients. My preference is really to use alpha wave music.
Okay.
But our best source of stillness is Mother Nature. There's just no substitute for it. But we have plenty of places we can go to get outside. We can go to parks. We can go to just the outdoors anywhere really, and Mother Nature will take care of us.
Some Define Nation, we're going to take a quick commercial break. Remember that this segment is brought to you by the Highway for Health Cycling Project. Childhood obesity is an absolute epidemic that can be prevented. Remember to check out highwayforhealth.org. That's highway, F-O-R, health.org. This is Danielle from the Define Your Health with Danielle Girdano radio show. Something that's truly near and dear to my heart is the epidemic of childhood obesity in the United States. This is a preventable epidemic that is taking over the lives of the next generation of children in this country. When I was growing up, my dad used to tell me, if you're not willing to do something to change something that you don't like, you don't have the right to complain. Well, you know what? I'm going to do something about it. This year, Define is embarking on the highwayforhealth.org project. What is it? It is a project to call attention to the epidemic of childhood obesity in the United States and how preventable it truly is. The project will give parents the tools and the resources that they need to make the right choices and truly equip themselves with the right knowledge so that they can help the next generations of Americans. Help me help the future. Visit highwayforhealth.org. Again, that's highway, F-O-R, health.org.
Hi, this is Mike Monzingo with Texas Independent Insurance. If you have been with the same provider for several years, there is a good chance we could substantially lower your insurance cost without sacrificing coverages. A report from the Texas Office of Public Insurance Counsel estimates that a person who has been with the same insurer for 8 years would save an average of 18% on premiums by switching providers. We provide coverage from several of the top-rated insurance companies, and we review your rates at renewal to keep your premium as low as possible. Give us a call today at 972-612-2393 and let us prove to you that switching insurance carriers translates into great insurance rates. Mike Monzingo, Texas Independent Insurance, 972-612-2393.
And we're back to Define Nation talking about some awesome mental health tips and tricks with our special guest, Renee Baker, who is a licensed professional counselor here in the Dallas Metroplex. And Renee, I really want to give some substance here to an example that has been all over the news, and I think it's a perfect example of how we can sometimes struggle with feelings. And sometimes we struggle with feelings to maybe what we perceive as save someone else from being hurt or from trying to maybe have feelings of selfishness. And I particularly wanted to bring this example up because of the specialties that you have with gender identity, with the LGBT community. And so Bruce Jenner, he had said in the interview that he did on ABC that, you know, he had contemplated suicide because he simply did not want to hurt the people around him. He did not want to hurt his family. I think he had even mentioned a couple times during that interview that he didn't now want to hurt his family, even though he has an outpouring of support. I think 4 children were on that special that were trying to support him, but he went through years and years of contemplation and really what I can only perceive as torture. And he's 65, I do believe. Can you walk us through what maybe that might have been like?
Sure, and probably I can draw on my own experiences. I was born in 1964, and I'm 50 years of age, and I can only compare myself to Bruce Jenner in many, many ways. And I don't even know if Bruce is the correct name. Or are we still with Bruce, or did we move on yet to something else? I don't even know.
Last I heard, it was still
Bruce, we'll have to find out.
We will.
But in the 1980s, when I was trying to transition, I tried to transition the first time. And when I say transition, I mean from male to female. And I was about 18, 19 years of age. And during those days, of course, we didn't have the internet, but during those days, we were in the early stages of mental health for transgender individuals.
Mm-hmm.
And the defining book for mental health disorders is called the DSM, or the Diagnostic and Statistic Manual for Mental Health Disorders. It's published.
Wow, that's a long title.
It is. That's why we say DSM. And the DSM is published by the American Psychiatric Association. The entry for transgender individuals in the DSM was transsexualism. So transsexualism basically was defined as a mental health disorder. And so as an individual growing up, Bruce Jenner, myself, many, many other individuals assumed that we had mental health disorders. There's something wrong with us. So you spend years wondering what happened to you. Someone break me when I was younger. What did my parents do? Was there a relative that sexually abused me? Was there something going on in my childhood to make me a transsexual, a transgender individual? Of course, we didn't have the term transgender back then. So
misunderstood.
It's very misunderstood. And we've gone through another evolution. Gender identity disorder was the next revision of the DSM. Current one is gender dysphoria in today's DSM. We still haven't removed it from the DSM like we've removed homosexuality. Same-sex relations was also in the DSM for many, many years, and homosexuality was considered a mental disorder. So when you as an individual are in a closet and you're facing the entire mental health community telling you that you're having a mental disorder, you assume there's something wrong with you. You stay in a closet, you feel very ashamed of yourself. And that's what the whole point of pride is about. It's becoming proud of yourself. It's being able to take a stand against those people in power and pushing back and say, look, I'm fine, I'm okay. I'm a healthy individual, and there's nothing wrong in my case with my gender. I embrace femininity and I embrace masculinity, and a lot of pushback against the transgender community is largely, if you were to unwind the layers of the onion, or the springs, I guess I should say, we would find that it really goes back to the Freudian days when men were considered superior. Well, masculinity was considered superior to femininity, and of course we consider that to be true today, largely, right?
Yeah.
So, that takes us far afield, right?
Yeah, that takes us a little far afield. Well, and I'm also, I think that those early days really led into the immense amount of discrimination, and from what I have seen in my own experience, the transgender community faces some of the most horrific hate crimes, and some of the, even within the LGBT community, there's misunderstanding. I mean, from my personal experience, what I've seen, there's misunderstanding, there's a lack of education, there's a lack of really trying to, of acceptance, and there shouldn't be. And I remember reading some of the statistics on the murders, and I mean, just terrible, awful things. And there was the transgendered man, Tina Brennan. I am going to not remember the name correctly, and that was back in the 80s, I believe, right? Late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah, and I can't think of it either.
But you know what I'm referring to, and horrific crimes like
Nebraska.
that I think people need to be aware of, and I can see where that instills fear. And Defy Nation, we are going to continue digging into this subject with our friend Renee Baker. Remember that this segment is brought to you by D Sweets. when you have that sweet tooth and it's calling, remember to make it organic, make it non-GMO, and reach out to our friends at dsweets.com. That's DSWEETS.com. And we're going to Vivian James with the Cooking Corner.
Hi, this is Vivian James with the Cooking Corner. Lycopene is considered one of the most potent antioxidants in the carotenoid family and has been linked to reduce prostate cancer. The highest concentrations of lycopene are in cooked tomato products, such as pasta sauce. Smaller amounts are also found in raw tomatoes, grapefruit, watermelons, guava, red bell peppers. Studies have shown that a diet rich in lycopene can reduce prostate cancers up to 20%. That being said, the more you cook tomatoes, the more lycopene increases. Being Italian, we love our sauce, or in some parts of the country they call it gravy. Whatever you call it, it's always a great idea to have some on hand. When I make my homemade sauce, I start off with lots of garlic, onions, bell peppers, and all types of baby bell mushrooms. I saute them for 5 minutes and add fresh basil and oregano from our garden. I add cans of tomato sauce and whole tomatoes and fill it up with my Nutrie's 8-quart Dutch oven. I love adding a good bold Burgundy or Chianti type wine to the mix. Here's a little tip from my dad. For that much sauce, add a teaspoon of nutmeg instead of sugar. It cuts the acidity out of the sauce. I simmer my sauce for days. After all, it's not Italian unless you cook it for a minimum of 48 hours. I then let it cool and jar it and place in the freezer until needed. If you have time for canning, that's awesome. If not, freezing is fine. Whatever you do, make sure you make plenty of it for the whole family to enjoy.
Hey, Define Nation, this is Danielle from Define Your Health with Danielle Girdano. You know, I know everyone looks forward to their cheat day, but even though that may be your day to indulge your sweet tooth, remember to keep it organic and non-GMO with treats from our friend at D Sweets. Recipes passed down from generation to generation using only the highest quality ingredients delivered straight to your door. The only hard part is waiting until cheat day to dig in. Visit them today at dsweets.com. That's DSWEETS.com. And we're back to Define Nation with our special guest, Renee Baker, licensed professional counselor. And I do want to make a correction here. We did have a chance to look up about Bruce Jenner and her name change, and she does want to be called Agnes in 2015, or so is reported by HollywoodLife.com. That was the first article that I could get to pop up. So I wanted to make sure that we had that correction in. And, you know, Renee, when I heard you really explain and going through that example, although it was with a transgendered female, it seems like many of the things that you were saying could be applied to a vast number of people when you were talking about, you know, people that are meant to be shamed, whether it be, you know, you're a boy and you grew up with this is the definition of masculinity, or you're a female and you grew up with this definition of what a female is, or you have expectations about education or job or family, cultural pressures. I mean, would you say that's a fair estimation?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely correct. Gender is one aspect of humanity. It's what I would call an organizing principle of our life. Gender is very core to our humanity, but there's many other identities. Gender is sort of at the center. It's one of the first things we learn about ourselves, that we're male or that we're female, if you will. And then from there we might discover our race, our religion, our sexuality. All those things become other identities. And any of those identities in themselves can be very limiting. They can be very shaming for individuals. We have other kinds of identities, like maybe class clown. That could be an identity for you. So there's all these different identities that we take on. Typically they tend to limit our full expression, and so we lose a sense of who we are. And so counseling kind of brings you back to a place where you can let go of the identities in the sense that they control you. You only use an identity in the sense that it helps you describe who you are, but it doesn't control you at all. So when we identify, say I identify as transgender even, I could say, well, I loosely identify as transgender. I identify as female. I loosely identify as female. I'm a human being.
Yes.
So we can limit ourselves and shame ourselves too much by taking on very, very strict identities.
Well, and I think one of the things that, Agnes should really be commended for is the fact that this conversation is happening. People should also make the connection that this isn't just a single issue, that these feelings and these emotions and things that happen could be spread over various, as you said, types of subject matter, whether it be...
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, one of the most common emotional difficulties that transgender individuals face is just plain anxiety and depression. And almost everybody faces those kind of feelings throughout their lives. We all have our fears that keep us from fully realizing ourselves, and sometimes our fears can create self-criticism. We don't like ourselves, and so we can become depressed about who we are, or maybe that anxiety keeps us from socializing, so we're not getting that kind of contact with other individuals, because our midbrains, our animal brains, they need social contact.
Yes.
Or maybe we're not very optimistic about our futures. I'll never get there. I'll never realize my dreams, and then we get a lot of depression from that kind of thing.
Well, and what would be the one tangible takeaway that you would want to leave people to really have as a resource or identifying tool that, hey, maybe I should talk about this. Maybe this is something I should start to deal with or understand better. What would be the tangible takeaway that you would want Define Nation to have from today's show?
Well, I would say the one thing is first to believe that you can get control of your own mental health. That's very important. A lot of times we think our emotions are runaway and we can't ever get control of them, but we really can. We can do our legwork. We can practice our mindfulness. We can reach out to health professionals, or we can reach out to meditation centers, that kind of thing, to help us really understand the process of thought and the process of creating beliefs through affirmations and challenging the beliefs that were handed down to us. We have a lot of shoulds and should nots and musts and must nots built into our brains, and we can change all of those things. And as Daniel Amen's book says, we can change our brain and we can change our life. So
yeah, I know absolute statements are such a dangerous thing to have. And now, Renee, tell people, obviously we can't answer all questions that we would love to ask you on a half-an-hour show, but if people want to reach out to you, if they have direct questions, or if they're seeking any kind of help, how can they get a hold of you?
Oh, well, of course, I'm available at my website, renee-baker.com. They can also reach me at my phone number, 214-607-5620, and I'm always glad to help people.
Well, awesome. Well, I sincerely thank you for coming on today and talking about this very important subject matter. Now, Define Nation, do remember that we're going to post a trivia question from today's show for that $500 prize pack giveaway. We will post that after the 7 o'clock show. So we want to thank our friends at Zevia, Soy Joy, Kind Bar, and Nordic Naturals. Until next time, Define Nation, remember, motivated, dedicated, and highly recommended. Bye-bye.
Hi, I'm Renee Baker. I'm a licensed professional counselor here in Dallas, Texas, and I'm very happy to offer my professional counseling services. I primarily work with the LGBT community. I am a gender therapist. I work with a lot of transgender clients and clients that fall within the same-sex categories. If you do need help, just give me a holler. I'm at renee-baker.com, and my phone number is 214-607-5620. That's renee-baker.com. I'm glad to help.